Also, just a quick heads up, I think that there's a few times in this explanation where I use the term lice to explain how the water entering the cell, or water leaving the cell would cause it to shrivel up and kill it. When I was recording this, I was going quickly, I wasn't really thinking about it. So just reviewing the footage over after. When I do use the term lice, I do understand that it means when too much water enters the cell, it causes it to burst. I just don't believe I used it correctly in the filming of this. So I just wanted to make mention that lysing of the cell occurs when too much water enters and it bursts. And when water leaves the cell, it shrivels and can die, but that is not lysing. Sickle cell trait is much more common than sickle cell disease just due to its pattern of inheritance. For sickle cell disease, both of the parents need to either be carriers for sickle cell or have sickle cell themselves. They each need one defective gene to have two defective genes for the child to become infected with sickle cell disease. To be a carrier, on the other hand, only one of the parents has to have some sort of sickle cell trait in their DNA. This could mean that one of the parents is a carrier and the other doesn't have it, or that one of the parents has sickle cell and the other parent doesn't have it. But when they come together, for sickle cell disease, they must each have an infected gene from their parents. But with sickle cell trait, only one of the parents needs to pass on the infected gene, so that the child has one infected gene and one non-infected gene. For these reasons, it's much more common for someone to have sickle cell trait, because the amount of people with sickle cell is dwindling. So to have a child with sickle cell disease, each of the parents have to have sickle cell. So you'd have to find another person with sickle cell or sickle cell trait to pass it on and have a child. And then even then, unless you have sickle cell disease, if you're just a carrier for it, it won't necessarily pass on to the child. If you get two people with sickle cell disease to have a child, their child will have sickle cell disease. In order to talk about the underlying causes of sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease, you have to look at it from a DNA, RNA, and an amino acid level. So in DNA, where a normal person has thymine, is replaced by adenine if you have sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease, which is all gotten from your parents as explained before. Now, when the DNA is being coded to become RNA, this change from thymine to adenine results in the RNA coding having uracil in a spot where adenine would be. So then when this RNA code leaves the nucleus through the nuclear pores out into the cytoplasm of the cell and it meets a ribosome to start producing protein, the amino acids come in to start producing protein, which is the end result. The amino acids will come in, but in the sixth spot on that hemoglobin molecule, where glutamic acid should be, valine sits in that spot as a result of this starting DNA discrepancy that we have between normal sickle cell disease and sickle cell trait and people who don't have it. So this one letter difference, also known as a base pair mutation, because only one of the letters change, which results in one amino acid changing. In a lot of cases that isn't a huge deal, but with hemoglobin it is, because it affects the structure and actually causes it to close and sickle upon itself, which is interesting because the structure can be so structurally different and changed just by that one base pair mutation, which results in one change in the RNA, which then results in the change of only one amino acid when the proteins are being made, but can have such a huge effect on not only the people who have to deal with it every day, but also the individual themselves. As for learning features of the case that I now have a deeper resolution of, I'm going to talk about why Maria would have been given a saline solution when she was brought in dehydrated. Now, with a saline solution, the concentration of it is the same as that of blood, so it doesn't cause water to leave the cells through osmosis, essentially, and cause them to lyse, which is having the water move from them and essentially shriveling up. So it's the same as water, the saline solution, which means that the water doesn't have to diffuse into or out of the cell because the salt concentration is the same, or the sodium concentration, both in the cell and in the solution that's being administered to the patient. As a result of this, as I mentioned, the cells stay the same, so the water doesn't rush in and enter them and cause them to swell up or burst, but it also doesn't leave them as a result of water moving out. Now, another reason why she might have been given saline solution is because it really helps with dehydration in the human body. So in the body, the kidneys are what help with water reabsorption in the tubules or in the loop of Henle. So water reabsorption takes place there as a result of sodium reabsorption that has already taken place in the other part of the loop of Henle, the descending loop. So water reabsorption takes place, which allows more water to be brought back into the blood, creating a more balanced pH as opposed to it being excreted through the urinary systems. So the kidneys help to try and keep the water within the body so that the blood pH can return to a normal value. Now, if there isn't this initial water for the kidneys to reabsorb through the urine rather than excreting it, there's no way that the cells can get the oxygen they need or the water they need. So they use saline solution to essentially rehydrate the person, because their goal is to get more water into the bloodstream and have it be the same concentration as it would be within the cells. So again, it doesn't leave the cells or enter the cells, causing them to lyse or burst. It's just there so it can diffuse freely into and out of the cells without any concentration gradient being made or upheld. So for these reasons, that would be why Maria was given, and many patients in the hospital, in many cases, will be given saline solutions to rehydrate them, but also to give them this water that they need back into their blood rather than cause them to stay dehydrated. So yeah, that is the Maria's Travels video. I hope you enjoyed.